Hello, Soul Crew. Great to see you in another transmission, in another moment of the now. I'm just very happy to see you today. Keeping you in my prayers. Feel free to share how you're doing below and keeping us posted with your evolutionary journey. So, today's transmission is going to be very tactical and practical as we embark ourselves into this quest, this evolution for the soul. I'm here very humbled and honored to be of service and provide insights and guidelines and just friendly advice of certain pointers that may help us ease our way through this earthly experience. So lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me. And let's get started. Today we're talking about traits of confident people and better habits. Overall, as you may see, in the measure that you evolve, there begins to be a gap between the people that are doing the inner work, people that are keeping up with their homework, and people that are just like choosing a different path. And that's okay. Everybody's here to do whatever is the best for the evolution of their souls. So if you are looking to improve your confidence and to present yourself on a higher moral ground, first and foremost, your personal values are going to determine the vibration that you operate from. So I will leave you with that to reflect on what do you value the most at a personal level so that you can begin to operate under those traits. Call it terms and conditions, right? So how does somebody that loves themselves would operate or would act right now? How does somebody that operates on their integrity would act right now? It takes courage and it takes practice, but as long as you keep up with your personal values, that's your North Star. So to be more practical about this, one trait of confident people is that they accept their fears instead of running away from them. A phrase that I like to use in my own personal practice is, I never run away from my demons, I learn their names. And that's how you domesticate them, and that's how you learn how to, in some sort of a contained space, host them in order to domesticate the energies and make them serve you in the favor of the evolution of your soul instead of being at the service of these lower vibrational energies that we know as fears. So here what we want to do is to develop a healthy relationship with your fears by approaching them with curiosity and compassion instead of judgment, instead of avoidance, instead of negativity. The fears are there for a reason. They're pointing towards what you could be working on, the weak points. So this is not for the faint of heart, but I know that's why you're here. It's because you have the strength from within your soul to overcome yourself and to work through this journey. So here we are, and it becomes like a very interesting process whenever you feel this fear maybe even creeping up within yourself, to anchor, to feel through your body, to connect to your senses, and just to begin to observe and be very curious about this fear and begin to feel through it. And the more accustomed you become to anchoring these energies, the less you'll be willing to just run away from them, to avoid them. So first things first, a trait for confident people is to be able to develop a healthy relationship with your fears rather than running away from them. By recognizing the emotional charge these fears have. These fears, like I said, they are golden nuggets because there's a lot of energy hidden behind these fears. And the moment that we're able to approach them with curiosity, it's the moment that we begin to reclaim back our power. It's the moment that we begin to recognize the emotional charge behind, and we begin to take charge of those emotions. So instead of reacting, we begin to recognize, and that changes the whole ballpark. Here, along with this and fears, something very interesting that underlines fears for a lot of us is the need to control, the need to control. Sometimes we fear that things will play out in a different way that we would have liked them to. And sometimes we think that it's for the better good or we're helping others. Mind your tendencies with regards to trying to control others or situations, even how others see you. Here's a reminder, you're not responsible for how other people behave, nor for making them understand you. However other people behave and whatever they understand, it's up to them. You're not here to justify yourself, and you're not here to explain to others what you're meant to be doing. You have a particular mission, and the more you act up on that, the more you'll set up a path, and then whoever is resonating with that will understand, and the ones that don't, they're not meant to. Not everybody's meant to see or experience your dreams the way you are. And here I am to validate that, because sometimes we can feel very alone in this path or misunderstood. It's part of the process, but you're not here to be understood by others. You're here to understand yourself and to validate yourself enough where you can walk the talk. And again, it can be very deceiving, because sometimes we feel that we're helping others, but it's really underlying under like a fear of being misunderstood or being abandoned, and the underlying emotion behind that fear, or like the tendency, is control. We just want to control how other people perceive us. We just want to control how situations play out, and at some point we're gonna have to surrender and be confident enough that you're doing what you're meant to, whether people are ready to see it or not. And then I can also promise and guarantee that the more you do you with under your highest moral ground and personal values, the more you'll begin to find your own crew, the more you'll begin to find people that vibrate under the personal values that you are working with. So it's very important when we are minding our controlling tendencies. The key is to learn how to listen from a place of curiosity, even if it hurts. Sometimes it can be so hurtful when you're working so hard on something and you're trying to build up your confidence, and people misunderstand you, or they shortcut you, or they judge you. That can, of course, at a human level, make you question yourself. But again, it's a nice test. It puts your character to the test and your confidence, because when you're working from a place of purity and a place of authenticity, you just know that what's right for you. So as long as you keep taking steps towards that direction, like I said, it keeps unfolding. And just as a reminder, you are not in charge of others' behaviors nor how they perceive you. And that can be a huge blockage towards just taking a stand and walking the path that is meant for you. So these 2 tips, like in a nutshell, are traits of confident people: is accepting your fears rather than running away from them, and minding your controlling tendencies. These 2 can really unfold into like a neurotic behavior if we don't keep tabs on them, right? Like the fears can become very paralyzing and stop us from fulfilling our full potential and upgrading towards the evolution of our soul. And then just trying to control is like, when they understand me, then I will tap into my potential. It's like, that's conditional behavior, and that's gonna hold you back from what you're meant to do. So just mind that, and mind this urge of like having to help other people out or passing on, like once people understand you, then you'll be able to. This conditional thinking, it's a trap. So at some point you're just gonna have to step up, practice your confidence. Confidence is a muscle, but like I said, the main 2 things that hold people back from being confident is the fear, and especially the fear behind situations that are outside of your control. How other people behave, how other people perceive you. And having these 2 traits into account, an actionable step is to begin to bring awareness and invoke strength and courage to see the light, to see your path. Right? The path is there for those willing to see. And sometimes what holds us back is that it brings painful truths. It brings changes. It brings shifts. It brings upgrades and updates that imply that we have to let go of things or certain traits or certain behaviors that are not serving your highest purpose. So by invoking the evolution of your soul, there's no evolution without truth. And with truth, there's pain. And again, that can trigger emotional reactivity, our sense of to want to control something, or fears. So I just kind of break this down so that you know that sometimes when fear is ahead or there's this tendency to control, you may be heading in the right direction. It's just that you have to overcome those obstacles to kind of get through that level, if you may. And just knowing that we're here, that there's more of us doing the work, and that you will have support to evolve towards the fulfillment of your soul. So if this resonates, please let me know if there's anything else you would like me to expand on, or there's anything that creates more curiosity. I'm always happy to elaborate on anything that will help you prompt the evolution of your soul. And that being said, let's just see if there's any insightful gifts or any other pointers that could help us anchor more light on this path towards the evolution of the soul. Thank you for joining me. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, this makes sense. There's redemption, there's emotional control. Oh, okay, yeah, we have a few insights here that I'll break down for you. So first and foremost, once you choose to embark into the evolution of your soul and begin to work on your confidence, what you're gonna go through is like a redemption process, right? We've been talking about the redemption timeline, and I'm gonna be unfolding more of that. But basically, the redemption timeline is the timeline that is chosen by the people that wish to look within themselves and redeem themselves and become responsible and accountable for their behavior, what happens in their lives, and just becoming responsible for your own self. So when you do this, what's going to happen is you're going to have a bit of a recap of the different versions of who you had to be or who you were in order to be who you were meant to be, right? So it's kind of assessing the different versions of yourself and coming to terms of like, okay, that happened. Yes, I had to do that at this point. But I invite you to see all of this with curiosity instead of judgment, and be very, very compassionate as you dwell through the versions of who you had to be in order to become who you are. Sometimes we are in certain situations where we're just trying our best, right? And maybe it wasn't the best performance. So it's very humbling to kind of go back and redeem that first version of ourselves and just recognize how we could have done better, and then keep raising the bar as we evolve. Something that is very important here is taking charge of our emotions. It's very different to respond once we recognize an emotion than to react to an emotion, to just like blow up into the emotional despair. So of course there's a lot of emotions, especially when we're talking about confidence or fears or control. There's a lot of energy behind those processes, so just to be aware of that. And the willingness to see, like we're just getting a bunch of validation on what we just talked, but it's like the willingness to see the light, and sometimes the growing pains that come along with that. Sometimes we're just like, yeah, I want to grow, but I don't want the pain. And again, pain, it's not in a suffering way, like we're not martyrs here. It's more like the pain of sometimes having to let go of things in order to grow in the way that we're meant to, right? Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. Thank you so much for your patience and hanging in there with me. And at the end, this is a reminder and validation that what you're doing is ancestral healing. You're not just healing and evolving for yourself, but for your whole lineage, which is beautiful. I call these people the cycle breakers, because whatever we were given, we know it could be done better, and we build that for ourselves and for our environment, and whether it's like future generations. But we just break the cycles of the things that are obsolete or they're not working anymore, and we begin a deep transformation. We begin a deep healing within ourselves, like I said, and it's vibrational because it impacts you and it impacts the people around you, and it's vibrational. So again, this is not a matter of like you having to make people understand you or having to control certain outcomes or how people perceive you. This is more of an inside work where you come to terms with every version that you've had to be in this life, if you may. Like again, sometimes we were not fully conscious of who we were becoming or how we were behaving. So this is where you go through a little bit of like the timeline or the different versions of yourself to come to terms. And sometimes that's the hardest part, to going back with compassion and curiosity and recognizing that we might have not played that the best we could have, that our performance was like an underperformance. But that's what we do. That's how we get confident. Once you own your own mistakes, once you own your own shortcomings, nobody can use them against you. Once you befriend, if you may, your fears, or you build a healthy relationship with your fears, nobody can use them against you. So the faster or the more you come to terms and build a healthy relationship with your shortcomings, the more confident you'll become, because you have the humility to admit whenever you make a mistake, whenever you could have done better. So that's a big part of the process, in just knowing that this is very deep. This even impacts your DNA. It is like at a DNA level, because you begin to really impact your nervous system, the way your thoughts flow through your mind, and the way you perceive yourself. And this really builds up confidence at a deeper level. It's just not a superficial thing, because I always try to be very mindful with the phrase like fake it until you make it versus practice until you make it. Like faking is not sustainable, and that's when people break down and they have like this, yeah, massive breakdowns, right? Versus like really just practicing your game, being the best version that you can every day, that looks different every day, and then just being in the path of who you're meant to be. So yeah, I think there's enough to unpack here. Again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next transmission. Wishing you a lovely day. Bye bye, crew.